Hey there, fellas. So in this episode, it's Lada's once again. But you're probably used to it at this point. And in this one, we're going to be realizing a pretty nutty idea. Why don't we try taking a Lada and supersizing it, proportionally growing it to make it twice as big? We're not exactly sure how to go about this, but it is definitely worth a shot. So let's try increasing the size of a Lada by 2 times, and just see where this goes. Let's do this. This is going to be a ton of work, but it'll be a trip. It would seem simple on the surface. All we need to do is increase the size of a Lada, which is something we've done many times before. Cutting, welding on new material. But here the idea is to increase the actual dimensions of the vehicle. Okay, so we have stripped the shell, preparing it, so that we could do some proper measurements. But you see, here's the thing. Increasing a car twice in size is good and everything, but look here. The car's width is about 160 centimeters. Increasing that twofold would mean going to 320. We also need to increase its length, its height. One shell is not going to be enough. We're going to need 2 more to cannibalize for parts. So after a bit of thought, we've decided to grow the car by 50%, to keep it somewhat reasonably sized. So given a stock length of 4 meters, that figure is going to increase to 6. We'll keep the width at 2.5 meters, the length at about 6. Should turn out pretty good. Now I suggest we cut the car in half down the longitudinal axis and spread the 2 halves apart by 80 centimeters. We now have some understanding of what it's going to look like. We've been stocking up on sheet metal, tubing and such. The idea is to put together a sort of frame that we're then going to be fitting body panels to. This is a massive undertaking, but then we're not shooting for the moon here. We just want to make something fun and at least remotely similar looking to a car. For the car to maintain its proper stance, we've replaced the temporarily missing parts with a steel profile. Here we go. But I don't know how to weld. It's easy, anyone can do it. We have increased the width, now it's time to work on the length. Starting with the rear section. We cut the rear doors and spread them 25 centimeters apart, then do the exact same thing with the front doors. Up front we make a single cut and spread the pieces half a meter apart. Hopefully when this project is complete, the car will fit through the gate. I mean, this thing is going to be enormous. What do you guys think? Well, it is a pretty big opening. This entire setup might look a bit flimsy, but the entire point is to figure out in which direction do we grow any given part. Tuck it under the bent section and it should be an excellent fit. Yeah, there you go.
After, we're going to scavenge other cars to extend the body panels. We're also going to be using sheet metal, and that'll make the shell much stiffer. And we're going to be reinforcing it using profiled steel. We knew from the start that this would be a challenge, but now that we've gotten to the initial height extension of the fenders, which we'll have to do twice, we realized that this is 10 times more difficult than we could ever imagine, even in our wildest nightmares. Because it's already this high, we're going to have to grow it again by 20 centimeters, meaning that the trunk of the car is going to be this high. What we thought going in would just be a big Lada has turned into this weird monstrosity that can already barely fit in this section of the garage. You'll notice that we've already increased the height by 20 centimeters, but we're not stopping there and are going to increase the height by an additional 20 centimeters. We're going to need ladders to do the roof. I mean, the hood is already up to here, that is just wild. The width having increased by 80 centimeters, we also need to widen the rear axle by 80 centimeters. Nothing crazy, we'll just use the factory rear axle for a Lada. Cut the sleeves, extend them using pieces of pipe, 80 centimeters worth. The axle shafts will be extended also using pipe, just of a smaller diameter. Since we cut through the middle of the car, all of the factory mounting points are going to be available. We might want to run some heavy-duty springs, but everything else will remain factory stock. The roof is supposed to be narrower relative to the flanks of the vehicle, and so proportionally the size increase won't be as major. In other words, the width won't be grown by 80 centimeters, and the length isn't going to increase by 120. We'll put it together to match the lower section of the car, that's what's already completed, and just size it to meet the correct proportion. The further we go, the more work needs to be done, it would seem. We don't have enough tools. Every angle grinder we have is in use, and there are 7 people currently working on this project. We've been trying to at least get to the rolling shell stage for about a week now, and we still haven't gotten there. Equipment and manpower resources are almost exhausted. We've even whipped out the MIG welders, angle grinders, with how much work still needs to be done. I have no idea how much longer we'll be doing this. For growing the doors, it's the same principle as for the rest of the car. Make 2 incisions, horizontal and vertical, bring the 4 pieces apart, fill in the empty space. Here is where we're at with this. Yeah, now it looks like a Lada. It's as if I'm standing next to some SUV. Not one that's super jacked up, but not a tiny one either. A lot has gone into this. The whole thing was welded together out of little pieces, of either metal sheet or bits of other Lada shells. Because in certain spots you got intricate bends which are not necessarily easy to hammer out. The other thing is that the fenders, the hood, I mean, every single element consists of small patches of material. We've widened the arches, grown the doors. The whole thing has gotten bigger. The proportions are all good. Wow, I mean, just look at how enormous this thing is. If I climb inside, yeah, pieces of the floor are missing. But here I am inside. Granted, I am walking on the concrete floor of our facility, but you can still tell that the car is very tall. But this thing is coming together very well, I'd say. Okay, guys, so, right now you can clearly see all of the tiny bits and pieces used to weld this car together, but we are looking at them for the final time. And so now, to make this Frankenstein's monster into a decent-looking thing that looks like a car, I think we should cover the body in some primer before we continue work on it. Yeah, do that, make it all one color, fit some wheels, and see what the car is going to look like. Let's carry on. Check this out, guys. We've applied a bit of paint, and this is one ginormous Lada we've got on our hands. For reference, here we have the standard vehicle, and this is the XXL version. It is so big and cool. It's kind of like when you used to draw a car in your childhood, and in real life it looks a tad different. It is something of a Frankenstein. I think we need to come up with a name. We had Shorty back in the day, Lodzilla. We also had old Gennady with the multiple engines. Let's think of a name for this one as well. But this is where we're at, and there is still so much work left to do. Let us know if you think we missed something. Maybe there's something else we can add to it. We're definitely going to continue work on this thing. In the meantime, though, we're taking a break. The important thing is we got the look right, we know the dimensions. 6 in length, 2.4 in width. It's all good, hopefully it'll be able to corner, but who even knows. But this has turned out lovely, you saw it all for yourselves. Share your thoughts, and that's it for this video. Catch you guys later. To be continued.